See, I was born of earth mound, of stone surroundings of no light, of serpents coiled around ceremonies of a diamond-shaped heart. I had only heard of the stories of these cold beings that have forgotten their eyes and sealed up their ears, of creatures who speak in a liar's language as fast as they can, using long, hideous words, ugly sounds created to use, built to confuse, chattering, talking, saying nothing. I had only heard of these monsters that refused to accept the lizard's teachings. Forgetting how to use their eyes, I was told they couldn't observe how the lizard maneuvers wild, quick, darting, slithering, to teach us that knowledge is acquired through our relative's next most sacred action. They had forgotten this teaching, this sacred moment, the lizard's sacred pause. And see, my great-great-great-great-grandmother, I was born a 12-year-old girl in our village, Tamahachito, when the terrorists arrived with our relatives of the East chained as slaves. We called these white beings Naholo, lovers of things, and they demanded many things, and things were happily given. We were peaceful with these savages until they demanded our women. I didn't know at that time that 300 years later, Indian women will be 3.5 times more likely to be raped in America than the national average, 87% of that time by non-native males. But our great leader, Tuscaloosa, refused, and the people fought, defending the human beings, and in the chaos my mother was killed, shot through the eye. I laid down in her arms and I prayed. See, she was warm. I was seen by a soldier, pulled from her body and raped, and he felt cold. He hated me. I saw it in his eyes, and after he was done, he took his sword and he severed my arms and legs, and that's when I closed my eyes. See, I reopened them. No, my great-great-grandfather. I reopened them as a 14-year-old boy in boarding school. See, I was born in barber chairs, force-fed foreign breath, and told to pick a name more suitable for civilization. My classmates and I learned to bleed, salute tear-drenched handkerchiefs, and bury feathers, bury directions, bury songs. School was so far away from where I learned anything that I couldn't find my way back, and the lead from my pencil pierced my grandfather through the heart and stripped the buffaloes of their hide. But I mustn't be savage, so I lay naked with the buffalo ashamed, a prostitute living as an eternal red light special. And see, I had the same dream almost every night of running away from school down the highway towards grandma's house, and I could never make it all the way there, even in my dreams. And one day, me and some other boys, we broke into the commissary to steal some communion wine. We found $40 and we took off. We made it to a powwow for a while before they found us. They beat us so hard that time that my scrawny little autistic friend shit all over himself. And at night, on occasions, we would hear the ghost of a girl that had no arms or legs flopping down the hallway. We called her Elbow Woman. We felt bad for her. We knew how it was to feel like you had parts missing. It's hard to move. And some nights, before we fell asleep, I would sing ending songs to the other boys quietly. Yo hele ha, yo hele ha, yo hele ha, yo hele ha. Yo kaniyakas naliksa kanimo, naliksa kanimo. See, I opened my eyes to a state, to a capital, filled with soldiers and boarding school authorities, wondering if they acknowledge my knowledge, wondering if they see the spirits of my great-great-great-great-grandmother and my grandpa. See, I was born lost with no mother, a frantic creature with an enormous foster home maze. I was born of a blood transfusion and an earth reduction. I look for something firmly planted to grasp to. My past has no gravity, so I place my hands with steel and anoint my forearms with ink numbers. If only I could forget what I am now. I am he of no name, of heroin eyes and a drunken tongue. I smell of death and rape. I walk with lacerations stained across my back. My blood is taken as communion daily, ripped into 32 parts. My oppression is planted beneath every step in America. I have misplaced my name. Perhaps it is too late to remember who I am, so I show wonders in circles deceased, with blood-soaked palms, performing traditions of ghosts, refusing to become you. I am nobody. And see, the reason I read this historic poem, this historic trauma poem is historic trauma has contributed to the highest rate of mental illness of any race in the United States. Yet we're blamed for the psychological aftermath of colonization. We developed the highest rates of depression, schizophrenia, alcoholism from the genocide that them and their ways of being was orchestrated. It was an inferior claustrophobic life that they forced us into. We react to it and then you kill us. These are diseased people.
Woo!
And so I say, you're an American. You're trying to talk to me about your still morality with your white reason and logic, but you can't talk to me out of that identity unless you first deal with the massacre of my people and slavery, else you have no identity at all. Your great American novel is left unwritten because you can't deal with it with any complexity or depth. Your reasoning is weak. Your morality is a shadow. If you want to talk to me about crime, start with the crime murder. Murder, 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 murder their stories, put lances through their children, work the slaves until they die of fatigue, rape all the red and black women and girls, and poke one eye out to assure that the next is a virgin. Then go back to panning for your gold. Murder, 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 murder. It is the human predator who is the criminal. And now you try to murder our ways of communicating. You don't respect our stories, chanting, and metaphors. Your bayonets stab out of context. You are part of a larger dominant system. Look back, read the speeches of our leaders. They supported the truths they knew with powerful words, reason, and emotion, but those empowered demeaned their words and took the land. We were forced into an adversarial path that they would call criminal. Your warring linear logic spreads destruction and desolation. Armed and still, you are compelled to lie by your fixed system of rigid mathematical power and computer knowledge and reason, like a slithering electrical viper without a rattle. From here on, every act is a crime, and you shall die by your own laws, moral laws, laws of violence and steel, devouring life continually. Look upon the criminal cruelties, waves of despair, innumerable multitudes walking through the wastes of white law, falling into sorrow and torture. Look upon the criminal cruelties. You white predators give body to falsehood. You talk of preventative measures to stop red and black criminality. Learn from us about inciting beauty. 17 Shalagi words for sunset. Let us dance the ghost dances in fluidity and elusiveness, not bound with stringent convention, tyrannical reason and law. Let us commune with grandmother earth and see her patterns, to see selfishness and aggression. Moral self-righteousness separates. Alienation is linked with crime. Let us have immediate experience to regain harmony. Listen to the wisdom in our stories and chants. It is you who are really the trembling victims of moral justice. Instead of locking yourself in the abbreviated communication of uncontextualized logic, enter the realm of the story where there are new levels of comprehension. It is you who have been carried into captivity, closed off from the land of silence and full moon nights, where clouds thunder over our breathing cornfields. Your cornfields are thistles. Your offerings are poison, death, and annihilation. You offer well-contrived words and polite, deceitful friendship, but all you say is murder, 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 murder. I want to say a story that my dad told me when I was a kid. Now, I'll get to why I read all this and why I'm telling you the story in a minute. But my dad told me a story when I was a kid of this Katua village in Georgia somewhere, and that there was this giant that was devouring people. He was eating people. And so the seven sacred women came together and spoke about what to do. When a warrior came up to them and said, I know how to defeat this beast, this monster, this giant. And so they agreed to let him go. So after 4 days of fasting and ceremony, he headed up to the giant's cave. And when the giant came out, it was impossible to escape. He knew he would be devoured. So he allowed himself to be devoured. But what the monster didn't know, that he had a shalush in it, a bushbo in a shalush. He had a knife in his moccasin, and he cut his way out of the beast. Until we understand that whiteness, or the disease of Naholo, when I say whiteness, I'm not talking about a skin color. I'm not talking about a people. I'm talking about an ideology that was brought here from Europe. This is what I'm talking about, this disease of spirit that we've been talking about, that Brother Keith was talking about earlier. And until we understand that whiteness, or the disease of Naholo that I'm talking about, this way of thinking and being as criminal, we stay in the belly of the beast, melting in his acids. No matter what laws or decriminalization ensue, it does not address the historical biases of structural and ideological systems and institutions. We stay seen as criminals through the system, no matter what changes. We're born as criminal upon this earth, Turtle Island. So true reform and change involves the debunking of the status legal system itself. Law is criminal. It legally sanctions a murder of Mother Earth and her children. You have to cut your way out of the belly. There's no other choice. I want to tell one more story. Again, this is the way I think of things. I grew up pretty traditional with my family, so I always heard stories, and through my life they keep coming back and strong, and I learn from them always. But he also told me a story once, this in Mississippi, in this old Chutta village, that there was a stone man, another giant, and he was devouring people as well. And so they counseled, as they always did. Again, the 7 sacred women decided what to do, and they said this time, we will handle this. You men can't handle this. It's up to us. So the women went and stood at the shore where the rock man would crawl out of the ocean there, and they stood there. And these women, they were on their moon time, and this is very powerful. They were connected with the earth like no other at that time. So when the stone man went by them, he fell to his knees and he died. Eventually, all the people that he devoured, the blood spewed out of him, making red rocks all over the place. These women, these sacred women, they took these rocks and they used this as medicine for the people. They used this for medicine and ceremonies. And see, as I take that now, as I see this, and then I'll get out of y'all's hair, this is a very powerful story to me. For one, because I see most of our movements now, I Don't Know More, this one with Melissa and the rest, our women are taking control of this. And the men need to understand that there are leaders in that way. My people are matriarchal, and I see that, and this is a fruition of these stories to me. They took the red paint and used it for medicine. He couldn't sustain himself on the blood of the women, or the atrocities like this happening, the murder. The monster cannot survive on these things. The stone man that I talked to you about is this disease, is the legal system. The resistance of the stone man, and this resistance is what Mahivist has inspired. This is what I tell you in this story. The resistance of this woman was inspired by Mahivist. So again, I say thank you, Mahivist. Thank you, Red Bird. And only being in tune with Mother Earth, Hashni Nakaya, the moon, and our ways can destroy this disease called America. This disease called colonization, law, and criminalization. So I ask you to stand with me on the shore that way when we're against this powerful beast, that we can defeat it from the inside out, but we can't melt in its acids. We have to cut our way out. We have to allow the women to take the lead and destroy this beast from the inside out. So I thank all of you for being here. Yakoki. Woo!